welcome to the Philadelphia Ethical Society. Happy Sunday, happy Father's Day, happy Juneteenth, and happy summer solstice, right? It was the solstice last night. So here at the Philadelphia Ethical Society, we own and operate this building, and we also own and operate a environmental education summer camp in Chester County. It's over 50 acres. There's some photos from the camp right behind you all on the table at the back. And I start with that because Camp Linden is the main community service project of the Ethical Society. It provides free environmental education and swimming education to hundreds of Philadelphia youth from different neighborhoods in Philadelphia and also a few others in Westchester, other parts of the Chester County. And I was just out there last night for the solstice, not technically for the solstice, just to really have a breath of fresh air. And it is astounding to me how amazing just being able to swim in the creek at the beginning of summer or the middle of summer, wherever we are, is, as a human being, it's one of the most pleasant experiences. If you have not been to Camp Linden, I encourage you to check out we're having our 100th birthday celebration, July 11th, out at Linden. July 11th and 12th, you can come out and camp out there. There's going to be a lot of different folks who have been involved in the Ethical Society over the decades and years. And it's really a tremendous place, especially if you live in the city and don't get a chance to get out and play in the woods. It's a really special place. We've been having a new ritual of sorts on Sundays where we ask folks how long they've been around. So I'm going to ask people, who here has been a member of the Ethical Society for over, let's say, 10 years? Raise your hand. Okay, so you can thank those folks for keeping this place running, and if you want to know more about the Ethical Society, approach one of them during coffee hour. What about under 5 years? Who's been coming or coming? Raise them high. Don't be shy. What about under a year? You're kind of new. You've been showing up. Welcome. And who's here for the first time in the building at all? First time in the building. Well, welcome. The Ethical Society has a deep history. Going back to the 1870s, started in New York. There's about 20 societies around the country. And there's two philosophical principles that we're going to be coming back to today during today's platform talk that are core to the Ethical Society. And that is, first, deed before creed. It's more important how we act in the world than any of our individual belief systems or ideologies. That actually, sometimes the language we use about the way we think about the world doesn't necessarily line up with our actions, or we misinterpret someone else's belief systems even though we share a lot of common values. And the way I like to think about it is that we can come together, we might disagree on certain things, but we can come together and plant trees together, we can come together and invest in public schools together. So it's all about acting in the common good and bridging divides. Second, which is I think going to come out in today's conversation with Walter Shields, is the idea of acting so as to elicit the best in others, which I think is a unique sort of golden rule in the Ethical Society, which is maybe finding the best in ourselves means finding the best in others and finding ways to relate to others and relate to the natural world in ways that brings out the best in others and the world. So there's a cultivation, there's a sort of we're human gardeners. I like to think of it that way. We have a few rituals every Sunday. We come together and practice. One is we listen to some wonderful music. Today we have Trusselina back in the house. And we also invite a guest speaker often who's doing good work in the world and whose work we want to spotlight and learn from and build a relationship with. So I've been here's the leader of the Ethical Society for the past year, and my focus has been on trying to bring folks in and also tell them about who we are, have them ask questions to us. So when we get into our Q&A, it's not just about us learning from our guest speaker, it's also them learning about what we're doing and maybe ways to collaborate. We have this incredible space. If you haven't been upstairs, please check out upstairs the classrooms that look over Rittenhouse Square. Okay, so before we get into a little bit of music from Trusselina, we always always provide a moment of silence and then a space for joys and concerns. So I'm going to give you a minute to just relax, take a few deep breaths. And then, for those who wish, we'll have a brief sharing of joys and concerns. So just take a minute, and I'll call you back in. Okay, welcome back. Joys and concerns. We always go around the room briefly so we can have several people share. If you have a joy or concern,
So my parents celebrated their 44th wedding anniversary yesterday.
Joys and concerns. Continue.
I just want to bring celebration to the life of my grandfather, Alfred Scott, who is passing right now at 103, which is insane. So, it's a lot of life.
Joys and concerns. Everybody's got it. Don't have to share them. Okay. Well, I heard them warming up this morning, and I could tell they were working on something new and beautiful. Let's welcome back to the stage Trusselina. two chairs over there. So Walter Shields is an artist slash performer slash educator slash scholar, born and raised in South Philadelphia. While Walter is mostly recognized for his performance career in Philadelphia, it is the nearly 2 decades in service, mentorship, and educational leadership which are at the core of his work and values. Walter has been committed to moving our community forward and being responsible for bringing arts and activism to the Philadelphia community. As a collaborator with the Public Health Management Corporation, Communities and Schools of Philadelphia, the Free Library of Philadelphia, and the Philadelphia Education Fund, Walter has created sustainable programming and cultivated special relationships that have built the foundation of his arts activism. As a theater and film actor, Walter is co-founder and co-artistic director for Theater in the X, a professional theater company created in 2013 to provide residents of West Philadelphia and the African American community at large the opportunity to see professional quality theater in their own neighborhood for no cost. Recent onstage performances include, and this is definitely out of date, right? Yeah, well, they include many. Specifically Sweat, for which he was nominated for a Barrymore Award. In addition, recent film performances include The Line, Without You, 3 Women, and If It Ain't Got That Swing. In addition, Walter works as a facilitator for a theater-based sexual health intervention called Brother Speak with young men in Philadelphia. He holds a BA in English and Theater from Penn State University, and we're going to learn about the part of his bio that isn't outdated up on stage. So I'll call it, come join me on stage, Walter. Give him a big round of applause. Can you actually bring one of these chairs on stage?
I think what colleagues like.
Oh, can you bring that? Or yeah, Dan, thank you. I didn't prepare the chairs. This is always the part. Please, Walter. Yeah. I'll wait up on stage for you.
Thank you. Good morning, all. This seems like it's going to be a fun experience. Happy Father's Day to the fathers. Happy Juneteenth to those who recognize and celebrate. I wrote some remarks, so I wanted to start with them. And I'm very used to being on stage and in front of folks. Do it almost every day. And I like talking to new folks and new friends and connecting. Philip has spoken very highly of the Ethical Society and the work that's done here and the community that you have. I'm rightly appreciative of the opportunity to talk to you all. Now I'm going to read from my phone, which is a rule that I have in my classes. I'm a professor of theater, and I don't allow my students to read from their phones. They have to print it out. I'm sorry for the trees, but I feel like that's a little, gives them more connection than reading from their phones. So I'm going to break my own rules today. I apologize. I should have also brought my glasses. I'm getting older. Let me acknowledge my 2 children in the back. Raise your hands. I'm going to embarrass them. They don't like this. It's London and Walter. I have 4 altogether. The other 2 are grown people, so they decide what they want to do on days like this. Thank you very much. We're wearing our Theater in the X shirts. We're going to run out of here when we're done. And today's the Juneteenth parade in West Philadelphia. So Theater in the X is walking in the parade, so they'll get started right at the end, and I'll catch up with you. So let me read some remarks that I was thinking about relative to this, and then we'll have a more expansive conversation. Phil and I will answer questions and take questions, all that stuff. All right, so theater in the neighborhood. When people hear that I run a theater company, they often assume that means that I spend my time in theaters. The truth is, for much of my life, I've spent my time in neighborhoods. I was born and raised in South Philadelphia, literally just a couple of miles away. I grew up understanding that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. I understood that there are entire communities full of brilliant people who may never set foot inside of a traditional theater. Not because they don't value art, because the barriers are real. Tickets cost money. Parking costs money. Child care costs money. Sometimes the theater itself feels like it belongs to somebody else. About 13 years ago, my colleagues and dear friends, Alicia Miller-White and Carlo Campbell, began asking a simple question. What would happen if we stopped asking people to come to the theater, instead we brought it to them? The question became theater begins. At the time, we didn't have a grand strategic plan, we didn't have a major funding, we didn't have a blueprint. What we had was belief. A belief that people deserve access to excellent art regardless of their zip code. A belief that Shakespeare belongs in the park just as much as it belongs on the stage. A belief that a child sitting on a blanket in West Philly deserves the same artistic experience as someone sitting in the front row of the theater here in Central City. So we started producing professional theater at Malcolm X Park. And for free, not discounted, not reduced, not community theater, professional theater, professional actors, professional designers, professional directors, for free. And something beautiful happened. People came. Families came. Children came. Elders came. Folks walking their dogs stopped and stayed. People who had never attended a play before suddenly found themselves laughing, crying, arguing about the ending, and discussing ideas with strangers. The park has become a gathering place. The theater became a commons. Over the years, I realized something important. Our work was never really about theater. Theater was simply a tool. The work was and is about belonging. Because every community has the same questions. Who gets to be seen? Whose stories matter? Who is welcome? Who belongs? Theater gave us a way to explore those questions together. For a few hours, we sit beside people we may not know. We witness the same story. We laugh at the same moments. We feel the same tension. And for a brief time, we remember that we are connected. In a world that increasingly encourages us to separate ourselves from one another, that experience is powerful. It is also deeply necessary. The philosopher and writer James Baldwin once said that artists are here to disturb the peace. I think artists are also here to help us imagine a better neighborhood, a better city, a better future. And maybe most importantly, a better version of ourselves. This is what I've learned from theater in the neighborhood. Not that art changes the world by itself, but that art creates the conditions for people to change the world. It helps us to see one another. It helps us to hear one another. It helps us imagine what's possible. And once people can imagine something different, they can begin to build it. Thank you.
Thank you all. That was a perfect way to begin. Yes. So you answered several of the questions.
I thought I might.
In your bio that I read aloud, what struck me was the way you described what you are as like your career, but then you quickly said, this is what I perform on TV. This is what people know me as, or what I'm considered successful for. But the most important thing to me is my role as a mentor. Why is that? Did you have mentors growing up? Did you not have mentors growing up? What is it that leaning into that role of being there for other people that you highlight so quickly in like a career-facing description of yourself?
Yeah, that's good. That's a great question, Phil. I think, I'm not saying Phil. Phil, is Phil okay? Okay. Got to make sure people are referred to the way they want to be. I don't let everybody call me Walt, for example. I kind of got to hear you say it, right? Little Walt, I call him Walt all the time, but, some people have to say Walter depending with their attitude, so I just want to check that. So, yeah, it's a simple and complex answer. So I'll give you some context as we got a little time. I grew up not far from here. I could walk from here. In fact, when I was a child, I would walk to this neighborhood a good deal. It wasn't difficult or challenging. I grew up in foster care. I was put in foster care when I was 4 years old. And I don't say any of this to make you sad. There are sometimes I tell particular parts of my story to particular audiences, and sometimes they get very sad and empathetic. That's not why I'm telling you this. But I just want you to understand some context of this mentor idea. So I grew up in foster care, and I don't know that I had a strong connection with my foster parents per se, and so I started going to church, and like a lot of black folks in the black community, and still this is still very much true, right? The black church is an institution of savior-like proportion. In the black Christian church, of course, we worship God, are thankful to Jesus, but really the institution itself is the Savior, whether folks often know it or not. And it certainly was the beginning of what was going to help save me. And so one of my first mentors was in church. Donnell Shepherd, say his name. In fact, this hat is representing my fraternity. I'll see these guys a little later today. They'll be walking in the parade, some of them. And back then he was a deacon at the church, and he took an interest. He took me and my best friend, this is funny to me, to learn how to play tennis. There used to be these tennis courts on like 26 in Tasker Street in South Philly. I don't think they're there anymore. They might be out there. And we thought we were playing baseball. We were awful. We were god awful. And then he took us to play baseball. And we liked baseball a lot more. But team baseball, like organized, we were bad at that too. We were good in the hood. We had to play those white boys from South Jersey or something like that. Oh, they were doing us something good. And, but that's the kind of things he did. And he didn't judge us. And he kept taking us. And he's still my friend. He's my fraternity brother. And in high school, he took us to a middle school to tutor middle school students, right? And then when I got in high school, I was leaving middle school. I went to elementary and middle school in South Philly, so not far from here either. And this program recruited me. I was a pretty good student, maybe one of the best during those years. And so I was accepted into a college preparatory program, which in today's society, you would just say that it's for children and families of low income or something like that. But it was really for black Americans. And they gave me money for college. Again, this was in the 8th grade, but they prepared you. They prepared you for SAT, they prepared you for all of these things. And one of the components is that you receive a mentor. And I'm pretty sure that the Walter you see standing in front of you has been with me since I was 13 years old, which is interesting. So they asked me, they said, well, what do you want in a mentor? I'm 13, I'm a know-it-all, but I knew what I wanted. And I said, black people, because I had noticed that what was happening to my peers was that they were all getting very, very wealthy white mentors. And at the time, I didn't see any value in that. And they didn't have many black mentors. The lady looked at me, took a deep breath. She said, well, maybe there aren't any available. I said, well, I won't be in this program if they ain't. And they found me a great couple. You know, usually they try to find you somebody along like gender lines, so like for a boy, a male. But I got a family, Andrea and Dennis Lawrence. They're former teachers and public servants and stuff like that. They were great. They were excellent. And they carried me all the way through adulthood. We're still very much friends. I was with Mrs. Lawrence on Mother's Day, and Dennis has since passed away. And those are just two of the groups of folks who I encountered along in time. I'll mention one more, Bill Hollenbach. He was my English teacher in high school. And I think I was already interested in theater. I was a theater kid, right? I mean, shout out to the church is theater. And so I was down then. But when I got into high school, Hollenbach, this is my first white mentor. This little short white Quaker dude, you know. And we became very close friends. In fact, when I graduated from college, my first job, my second job out of college, I was a high school teacher for high school students. And I went back to high school I graduated from, Williamson High School here in North Philly, which is no longer there. And we became really close friends. And then I got to hear him like curse and be like a human being, because you know your high school teachers are doing their best to not shake that side. And that was really great. And he had a deep impact on my theater life. And so yeah, mentors have absolutely been important. This is the best thing you can be, as far as I'm concerned, is an offering to other people, right? And that doesn't always mean like somebody who doesn't have as much as you, because we all have different experiences, and so their experiences were valuable, not their careers, not their financial statements, none of that, just giving me insight and wisdom. So yeah.
I was laughing because one thing we share is we both got beat by South Jersey baseball kids.
Oh, yes. And now my son plays for South Jersey baseball teams. He's 12 years, going into 13. And so he would have beat me if I was.
So this principle of everyone having unique experiences that are worthwhile, this is central to ethical culture, the history of this place. But I want to switch the topic to acting on stage, what it means to be on stage. So there's this quote from Ethical Culture, going back to 1875, that act so as to elicit the best in others, right? Which gets to what you were just talking about in some ways. But I'm also wondering if when you are playing roles, when you're on the stage, is there, it made me think, because I wanted to ask you this question more towards the mentorship side, but actually when you're honing your craft and you're becoming different people that you play on stage, how much are you also thinking about the other human beings? How much space do you have to craft for all of these other human beings and the way that they're acting? Do you just have to focus on your role and who you are, or do you also have to kind of think about these other human beings and their roles that they're trying to be, and how does that play out?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm a theater professor, so I don't want to get too professory on you on Sunday morning. But this is it. This is acting one, right? Acting 101. But let's start with you. In your life, you are connected and interconnected to your community. And oftentimes, you are connected and interconnected to communities you don't exist in. One of the great things about theater is there's a conflict, right? The reason we go to see the show, to see what the conflict is. And oftentimes, the conflict is usually the folks that are not in community. Sure, there are plenty of family dramas and, kind of melodrama where there's a family argument and there's conflict. But sometimes community doesn't have to be the people that you're around. Sometimes It is the people that you're around who you are in disagreement with. And that's our general walk through life as I've experienced life, right? And you have to be concerned with the condition of the people around you. If you walk through that park across the street, and I'm sure you have hundreds of times, if not more, right? And any given day, there are folks listening to their music, walking their pets, homeless folks, somebody smoking a joint, somebody opening up a drink, right? And for however long, for you, you connect with that experience, whether you are in agreement of their current situation or not, right? You recognize the homeless person. And recognize can be superficial. You just see them and you keep walking, right? You might make eye contact with them. You might see the kid on the skateboard, smoking weed, right? And have a thought about that. You have to consider their existence. Now, sure, in this country, most likely around the world, there are folks who do their best not to consider the existence of others for whatever reason, right? But that is a folly, because the act of avoiding their existence is acknowledging their existence, right? And in that mindset, theater is the same way, right? I tell new actors all the time, there are two questions that you need to ask yourself for your character. These are two most important questions you need to ask. How am I like the character? And how am I not like the character? Then the next two important questions that you ask. What does my character say about himself? And what do the other characters say about me? In a very small microcosm, that's theater. What do the other people say about me? It's important as the actor, I have to say the technician, the actor, to understand what the other characters say about my character. And so it is exceptionally important for me not to only be concerned with my track in a particular show. When I first read a script, I'm not even thinking about an individual character. Hey, Walt, we want you to do this play. Here's the role we think we want you to do. Read the script, let us know what you think. In that moment, it doesn't matter who I'm supposed to be in that play. I need to understand the world of the story, the world of the play. And then we can make headway into who I might be.
I was thinking about how you see actors change their physical appearance for certain films or TV series, right? Like it's very visible change that someone has to go through because they're a bodybuilder in the thing, or they're a lot skinnier than they were. It made me think there's a world, especially because right now I'm trying to become more fit, so learn from Pablo. That there's a world in which you could take on these different roles, just like people think, oh, I'm going to try to become more fit, I'm going to try to go to the gym, I'm going to try to run every day, I'm going to do yoga, as forms of personal development, right? I mean, depending on what role you're playing, it could be like, I don't want to turn into this person, or actually there are parts of this person that I kind of want to be like, and therefore I could practice, I could work out these muscles that this other person. And I was thinking about that. Is there a tradition or a theory about that? Do you think about it in any way where you're like, oh, I actually admire this aspect of this character. I'm gonna like use these 6 months that I have to learn this person to kind of like embody that. I don't know. Is that something that you on the personal level, and then is there kind of a broader theater kind of way of thinking about, personality development or growth in that way?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is, if you want to successfully inhabit this character, this person, you should try to come as close as you can to who they are, what is said about them, what's in the stage directions, how they carry themselves, how they behave. Sometimes it's physical. You know, theater is real, it's in your face. So you want to do your best to support the audience's imagination. Yeah, and so in supporting that, you learn what they learn. I was doing a Streetcar Named Desire one time, and I was one of the neighbors. I don't even remember his name anymore. But I was a neighbor upstairs, if you've seen the play. I needed to learn how to play poker because he played poker in the play, and I never played poker. I'm not a gambler. Me and my daughter, my son, we play all the time. I always beat them, and they always get upset about it. It's okay. Daddy wins. One day, it'll be okay. London disagrees with me. But I need to channel that knowledge, that experience, and I didn't have it. And I'm glad I learned how to play poker. We would spend time in rehearsal, just practicing. And when we get into a show, and this was at the Art Theater, if anybody's ever been, they particularly do long runs. And there would be nights where we get lost in a poker game. I'm ready to turn this card over, right, and win all my money. And we think, oh, I gotta get back to the play. Gotta do this thing. So that's a small example. I've never been asked yet to change physically. But I would. There's a brother right now, he's in major trouble. That is not a pun now that I just recognize what I just said. Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors is quite, just talking artistically, one of the most fantastic actors I've ever seen in my life. He is apparently deep in trouble. But he's making a comeback, or he's trying to, I don't know, there's a lot going on. But he did this movie, Magazine Dreams, that I imagine he would have won an Oscar for had he not been in trouble. Like, he completely transforms. And we've seen this. One of my favorite movies, Mickey Rourke and The Wrestler, right? My God, this transformation. Now, Mickey had some association, if me and him were talking as actors, he had some association with substance abuse and some of his family issues and things like that. But he really dug deep and made some really important and serious choices that gave us the character that he was talking about. It's absolutely important. Now, I'm not an actor that is necessarily deeply concerned with methods, right? You're gonna meet those actors, like they're deeply concerned with methods. I've learned them all, but in the 21st century America, as a black man, I don't have time to be too invested in methods that take me to a dark place, right? Right off the top of my head, I might think Heath Ledger, right? Joker, those kind of things. And in fact, I think that's a bit of a privilege that I do not have. Bless you. We all have these different privileges, and that's just not what I have. So I try not to get so deeply invested in a character that is challenging to come out of it. I have a play coming up next year that's going to be very interesting, very interested in it. I was reading it a couple of weeks ago, helping the writer through it a little bit, and the guy that I'm going to play is a pastor of a church. I've played a pastor of a church before, maybe a few times. I'm really good at it. But he's gay. He's in the closet. Now, I've also played a gay person on stage before. Not really an issue. But he's closeted, and it's a deep, dark thing. And I'm thinking about that. We don't start rehearsals until January, but come see it. See if I pull it off. It's gonna be interesting. We'll be at the Interact Theater on Hicks Street, not far from here. So I do think about it. I'm in a show and I start rehearsals in August called Team Dad, and that's gonna be in Trenton. And it sounds interesting because it's not Team Dad as you might think. but he's a dad. And, you know, I'm a dad, times 4. And there are things about that that I can relate to. But there's other things about this man that are not like me. And I will have to invest in understanding his psychology, you know, his thought process, some of his other social interactions and things like that to really understand him. But usually it's in the mind, right? It's like I'm an athlete too, or I've been an athlete, and you know, and I've coached almost all the sports. And every time I'm talking to young people, I'm sure my son and my daughter have heard me say this. She plays soccer, he plays baseball. And the game is here. The game is here. It's mental. I know it doesn't look like that in football where they're trying to kill each other, American football. But the game is mental. And acting is all up here, you know.
I imagine with theater in the X, one of the nice things is, because as you were speaking, I was thinking, you know, you're in some ways you don't get to choose some of these roles, right? You're in the market, you have to make money, you have to make money, right? So,
Yeah.
but with theater next, you get to choose to some degree what shows, what theater you put on. So how do you think about that? What are the pillars of what Theater X is trying to do, and therefore what kind of, you know, tell us about in the past, maybe moving forward, what can we?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, if you don't know, Theater X was founded by Lanisha and Carlo and I back in 2013, and part of the idea was, the first foremost idea was we were actors of color working primarily here in Philadelphia with very few opportunities. I'm sure if you came out in February, you'd see all of us, right? I'll let you guess why. And throughout the rest of the year, it was tough to get a gig, you know. And let me say, for context, it's tough for everybody to get a gig. You know, it's tough. It's tough for white women to get a gig in this game. You know, I often say, I say it privately, so I'm talking about this. You know what I'm talking about? Like, white women might not be the roughest when it comes to theater and film, because it's too many. It's too many, right? But the difference is that our greater society and community aren't interested in stories about folks of color in this country. That's a difference, all right? The white woman is going up against several other white women, so our chances could be limited because it's, you know, supply and demand type thing. Whereas, is our community interested in all the stories? And so one of the unofficial models of Theater X is tell all the stories. Tell all the stories. Now, we are concerned with the story of particularly Black and brown folks. And so we started the theater company in that vein. They won't hire us, they won't tell us our stories, let's do it ourselves, right? And I got my issues with America, right? But that is a fundamental, supposed to be, fundamental idea of this country, the history of this country, and the ethos of this country, is if they won't give it to you, you take it. That's basically what they did from the Mississippi River West. Ranger history. Folks just said, we moving west. It's ours now. So you build it, you do it yourself. And that's what we did. And you know, but we did it in part of the truest sense of our ancestral history, and a lot of histories of folks of color in this country. You do it in community. You do it in community. Community is exceptionally important to Black and brown folks and other communities in this country. And so we came together and we called on some folks and we just started doing theater. And I think that first summer we had $1,000. We got a grant, an Eastwood grant from the Leeway Foundation, and we did this show called Black Mass by Mary Baraka. And I always tell this story because it was super fun. I don't know if you know what Mary Baraka is, formerly Leroy Jones, but he was this like beat poet in the 60s and 70s in New York. You know, he was with Ginsberg and all those folks. And he changed his name to Mary Baraka because that's what Black folks were doing in the 70s. And he got crazy, he got real. He wrote this play called Black Mass, M-A-S-S. And it was insane. It's insane to produce, let me say that. The story that he was telling is not a new story. He was telling a story about how white people were created. This idea of this godlike figure, Yakub, and they were scientists and they went rogue, they were black, like in the continent of Africa somewhere, and they created white people. Carlo sent us this play. I always say this about Carlo. I don't have to tell you who Carlo is. You gotta call Carlo to do one of these things. I don't have to tell you who Carlo is. If Carlo walks in any room you're in, you will immediately know who he is. I promise you. One day he's gonna walk past you and be like, that is Carlo Campbell. Just wait. So Carlo sends me this play, and I said, because we can do this, I call it damn work. I said, what are you thinking? We can do this play. This play is insane. But I almost always let, I always let them convince me or persuade me to do something that I don't think we should do. And so this is our first year. And so we do the play, Malcolm X Park. I don't know if you're familiar with Malcolm X Park is, 52nd and Pine, West Philadelphia. A increasingly gentrifying neighborhood, but it's been happening for a while. And so if you think about it like this might still be true. 52nd Street and West is still mostly black. 52nd Street and East is increasingly white. And so we get to the first day of the play, we're ready to produce, we're nervous, and we're thinking when people come, and all these white people show. And I was like, oh my God, this is the first and last year of Theater in the X. This is going to be a problem. But it went off without a hitch. It was great. White folks loved it. Because Amiri is, he's one of our greatest writers ever. But, and so it was thoughtful and all of that. And that's how we started. And we went from there, and we're in year, I guess this is year 13. I'll let you do the math. And so we're doing, because this is going to answer your question, because I went around the long way. We're doing For Colored Girls Who Consider Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. That is the show this year. They'll be promoting it at the parade. And there'll be somebody doing a monologue from one of the shows. Last year we did a show called Fraternity. It was no coincidence that I'm in a fraternity. It had 7 men in the show. For Colored Girls has 7 women in the show. There are a billion things we think about when we think about producing a show. A billion things. Do we want it to be funny? Do we want to hit a deep message? Do we want to do a musical? My God, I don't want to do a musical. I do not like musicals. Nor can I sing, but that has nothing to do with it. But sometimes we are in theater. This is America. Audiences matter, right? Donations matter, and the musicals make a lot of money. They just do. And so, we choose among any particular rationale. Once we decide on a play that year, we'll decide if there is a role in it for the artistic director specifically, myself, Lanish, and Carlo. This year, Lanish, who is the executive director, is in For Colored Girls. Last year, I was in Fraternity, Carlo was in Fraternity. The year prior to that, Carlo was in the show, Won't Get On Stop On show. I was not in the show, I decided not to be in it that year. The year before that, we did Zoom In the Sign, which is one of my favorite plays, written by Philadelphia playwright Charles Fuller, made rest in peace, he passed away a couple years ago. He wrote a lot of other plays. We did Zoom In the Sign, which was very, so for example, Zoom In the Sign was like, was set in West Philly. It was written in 1981. I was born in 1981. If I didn't tell you that and you came to see Zoom In, you might immediately think it was written yesterday. So sometimes you got to do a relevant play. And shout out to London, my daughter, who was the daughter in Zoom In. And the side, I played the father. She played my daughter, and it seemed like we really had a good life there. So those are all the reasons why we might, or maybe most of the reasons why we might choose a show.
Let's open it up to questions from the audience. I'm going to take a bunch at a time so we can get as many people as possible. Let's do 3 at a time. I'll do these 3 over here.
Thank you for coming here. I wanted to know, the first time Othello, except that you reversed it. Were you part of that production? It was incredible. Where I remember that so much. I went to all, I think it was 3 times. I went to all 3 times. But how do you feel about the idea of taking primarily white classics and then infusing them with black thought?
That's a great question. It's Othello in maybe 2016 or 2017, something like that. And it was an all-black cast. And if you know Othello, it's Othello, the Moor, the general, right? Who leads this army, white European folks. And we switched that. Carlo played Othello, and our thinking behind that show was, directed by Ozzie Jones, was we set it in Philadelphia. If you're not familiar, like Philadelphia has a very disproportionate amount of black Muslims here in Philadelphia, more than you might see in most cities around the country. And so our Othello was Muslim, right? And he's still a general, like more closer to like a community leader, And so Desdemona was black and everybody else. I played Cassio, yes, I was in the show. And I love playing Cassio because Cassio gets drunk, and getting drunk in Shakespeare language is incredible, right? It was hot, I don't know if you remember, I took my shirt off. It was insane, it was great, I had a good time. Here's the thing about Shakespeare, this is good. I love talking to white people about this. Shakespeare didn't write that shit for y'all. Not in the way that you might think. He just did, right? Shakespeare wrote for the common people of his time, right? He made fun of kings and queens, the noble people, right? Go through plays if you don't believe me, right? I've done like 7 of them. Like, he was not interested in the idea of wealth of folks. I don't know that we know that Shakespeare himself was wealthy. You know how people compare Shakespeare to, and y'all might not appreciate this the way another audience might appreciate this. I compare Shakespeare to Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry get on my nerves. Boy, he gets on a lot of my nerves. But Tyler is prolific, right? He writes for his audience. And he don't give a damn what nobody think. And I respect that about his work. I might not like the artistic quality of his work, but I respect it deeply. Shakespeare did the same thing. He did the same thing, and all it took was another 500 years for us to catch up. And so I don't think he would have minded at all. I think anybody that knows who's a scholar would understand that. And, I think Theater Next did a lot of things first that because of the internet, the country has picked up on. I believe that wholly. I think free theater, some people call it pay what you can, we did it first. Making an all-black Othello and other all-black Shakespeare work. We also did Richard III, a couple other pieces, and I see it now all over the country. Because it's not hard, it's not difficult to do, right? And I would imagine that if Shakespeare could see it today, he'd be like, yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking. In this setting, out here. Not all that stuffy nonsense you see. It always, we understand that for most of his work, it's very good. Not all of it is good, but most of it is pretty good. And if you get pretty good actors, you can get a pretty good show, right? And he don't deal with race and stuff like that. He deals with more class and sometimes gender. So I think he'd be down with it. Yeah, we had a good time. I gotta take my shirt off. That was great.
So I'm gonna take 3. Walter, try not to turn until I take 3, right? So we're gonna ask a
I
question.
got it. I'm sorry. All right.
Hi, Dad.
Oh, right.
First of all, you don't always be a student. Don't lie to these people. Second of all, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you said you don't like musicals, but you literally had me grow up on Hamilton. So, have you not liked Hamilton this whole time? Because that's a musical. So.
Okay, all right, good job. Hamilton is, okay, yes. I'll get to that in a moment.
Hi, thank you for coming. If you could turn any audiobook or a biography into a play or a musical, what would it be?
Okay.
kind of like changed you as a person or helped you evolve? Because I imagine the amount of time you have to like spend in that role, you have to embody that person. It changes the way you walk, the way you think, the way you move, at least while you're being that person. So I guess I'm curious if there's a role that you've kind of taken with you and like grown as a person from.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I'll start. London, Hamilton is an exception. Okay, it's an exception. And I don't talk to you about it because I know how much you love it. And, you know, I'm good friends with Leslie Odom, right? And me and Chris Jackson are cool. They were in the original cast. Like, you know, I got problems with Hamilton. But that doesn't make what Lynn did incredible. So I will say this. Sondheim, I'll add Lynn to this list. Like, these folks, they're geniuses. There's nothing I can take from the ability to take that kind of emotion and turn it into song and then add dance and all sorts of stuff. And but seeing people fighting to a song and you know, coming into confrontation and dance just doesn't pull me in. I'm sorry, man, it just don't work for me. But there are exceptions. And I'll say I'm opening up a little bit. I went to see My Fair Lady a couple years ago, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And that play is so problematic, right? But they mostly are. So no, Hamilton is exception. It's great. We'll go to England and we'll see Leslie in it next year. Okay. This one was a book or bio. Paul Robeson. There's a couple of bios about Paul Robeson life. I don't know if you know who Paul Robeson is. In my opinion, go home and do some work on this if you want to disagree with me. Paul Robeson was the greatest Americans ever lived. And I would love to do a show about his life. He's super under-recognized. I did a play called Clydes at the Art Theater a couple years ago, and I played Montrellis. And, you know, Montrellis, we were real alike in a lot of ways. And so I carried him with me, and I carried some of his lessons with me.
All right, let's do 4, because I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of questions. 1.
Thank you for coming. This is more just a very quick comment. First of all, thank you for coming. And I would assume, I don't like to make assumptions, that the kids who are able, underprivileged kids who are able to see plays because of what you do, that they see a brighter future. They see opportunities that they didn't think existed, and maybe this brighter future hopefully would also spill into higher academic performance in the classroom. So there's always a spin out, you know, what you're doing is even greater because the effect will be greater in the end.
It's nice to talk about that.
Just a quick question. I remember seeing an interview with Audrey McDonald way back when. She did the role of Carrie in Carousel, and she got a lot of pushback from the critics because she's African American and people that her parents were white. Do you think that it's gotten better over time as far as colorblind casting? Have you had opportunities?
Good question. I got to think.
3 more, because the first one was a comment.
So this is similar to the question that you just asked, but this idea that you ask yourself 2 questions is that how's the character like me and how is it different? And so is this a way of actually maybe looking at the world through another person's eyes and developing empathy? So for the example that you're playing a gay character, you look, oh, this person's no different than I am, they just have a different sexual preference. So is that and helpful? Do you think that would be helpful for other people just to look at the world through another lens and just imagine themselves experiencing what somebody else might be experiencing?
It's great.
2 more.
I've seen, I feel like more plays in Philly written by local authors that are set in communities of color. It's amazing how many, I feel like, starting with the Jane Dimes over and, and interactors you mentioned, and Azuka, and a few others. And whenever I go to such shows, the audiences are so much more diverse. And I'm just wondering if you, Theater in the X works with local playwrights and to, commission stuff with them, collaborates with them in different ways.
I don't know what's out there. We'll do two more. Let's do one in this one, so I can remember all the questions.
You mentioned the story of your coup, and about a year ago that became an internet meme, so I looked into it more and found out that despite the story being seeming a bit ridiculous at first, the people who were spreading it were seriously high up community leaders who were hugely influential. So I wanted to ask what your interpretation of that story is.
All right, let's go to the comment first. So, yes, and there's more nuance than that, right? I certainly was inspired by theater when I was a child and the opportunities that I was able to see. But I'm also an educator, and inspiration doesn't always encourage academic success. There are too many other factors, right? Motivation is not enough. You know how we all know that? Because most of us wake up every day and say we're going to eat better, we're going to work out, we're going to move, right? And maybe for a few days we do it very well, right? Motivation is not enough. You need resources, you need support, there's so many other factors that come into play that many of us unfortunately want to ignore because that's too difficult of an answer to solve. If it were, we would solve some of the crises that we see in some of our academic institutions in this city, particularly our secondary education ones. Where was I at? My folk here. Remind me real fast. Do I see the world through other eyes? Is that the one?
Yeah, basically, seeing through the world, the lens is sort of
Yeah,
develop empathy.
Yeah, I do, right? But I'm also trained to develop empathy through looking at these characters. So this character that I'll play next year, it is a fact that he is a pastor. It's a fact that he is a closeted gay man. But there's so many other factors to his life that I'm going to have to consider that are really immaterial to those other two facts. But I am trained to explore all of that. I think for us as just regular folks walking around, I'm coming to the conclusion that it is just increasingly hard for us to step into the mind or experience of other folks not like us. And everybody that's a little older in the room, myself included, it becomes more difficult as you get older. Because I think when we get older, we look for easier solutions because the probably more authentic ones are more challenging to solve. And us learning new things at our big ages is a challenge. And some of these things are really tough. When we talk about issues of race and equity, gender equality, right? All of it, us older folks have a tough time. And so that is the way we should go, but it is a tough thing to do for a lot of people. Again, motivation is not enough. It is only the beginning. Tell me again. Yes, it was. Colorblind casting. Oh, yeah, sure. And Oz was like the greatest Broadway actor ever. I get colorblind casting all the time. But sometimes I shouldn't because I'm not right for the role. I'm an actor. I'm gonna take that money, right? And as one of my acting teachers was, I'm allowed to make a dud every now and again. I won't always invite you to a show. I'm like, no, this ain't it, right? And so we have to be, the artistic directors and folks who make these choices, they have to make better decisions because there was a time that, certainly right before the murder of George Floyd, right after it, right, theater companies went wild with this kind of thing, but they really weren't telling authentic stories. They just wanted to put black actors and brown actors and other actors of color and experience on stage, right? So Audrey would never, ever get that now, no. But she's also one of one. That's important too. I think that part of what's going to happen for you today is that you're going to see me and hear me and think, he is special. He is unique. For whatever reason, and maybe I'll find out when I leave this earth, right? I was funneled into different opportunities that I promise you, so many of my peers were not. I am lucky. I am blessed, but I am lucky. And I appreciate this opportunity. But I want you to go home and also think about the boys who grew up next to me who are dead, who are in prison, who are underpaid and overworked, underemployed. More of them exist in me, and that is an unfortunate reality of our society. So yeah, they might pick me for a role that they might not otherwise, you know. But that don't mean anything. I'm gonna answer this question, but it reminds me of a play I was doing. A Shakespeare play, Love Labor's Lost. White woman director, and they casted me in it. They casted a friend of mine who's Latinx, and oh, we hated that. And for days, the director called me Dwayne. Days. I'm a younger actor, so like most people when they're just starting out in their career, you don't want to rock the boat too much. You know, I've always been me, but I said, I want this. And so I walked up to her very, hey, listen. And I would never do this now, right? But then, hey, my name is Walter. You know what she said? You would think this is a cartoon. It's not. It's really happening. What? No, you're not. You're Dwayne. I said, I almost called it a B word. And I said, no, it's Walter. Oh, okay. All right. Never apologize. Then we were doing the scene in the show. I don't know if you ever saw Love Labor's Lost, but I was Dumaine. I was one of the princes. And she was like, hey, Walt. You know, I'll let everybody call me Walt. And she was one of them. I don't think she should go to Walt. She was like, hey, can you, when we were singing, and I can't sing either, and but I was singing with the group. She was like, can you dance? And it started out really small, and then it got really strange and weird. And I walked up to her later, you know, like, hey, listen, I feel like as the black person in the play, you are making me like the comic relief. And I don't know if y'all know, that's a sensitive place for us, right? I don't mind being funny, but I also don't want to be put on a pedestal to look like I'm the one that is misbehaving, acting out to elicit laughter from primarily, and this is my experience, that's why I'm very comfortable here with you all, is I perform in front of white audiences, right? And she got really upset. People just have fun. Oh, she's an awful person. And I didn't do it. She's probably not an awful person. She's just misguided. And so sometimes we color by casting, and that's the thing. Yes, we do. Theater Next has co-produced with Interact last year. We co-produced with the Art of Theater. And I think they know this. They might not say it, but I think they know this. There's a few of us that if you put in a show in Philadelphia, it's going to sell out. And the audiences are going to be very diverse. Whereas I go to shows all the time. I see 3 shows a week, right? I'm a theater artist, but you know, I support my folks, all my friends are in these. And you know, most times in the audience, it's just a whole bunch of women. I went to a terrible show one time. Terrible show. It's awful. It's the worst professional theater I've ever seen in this city. I won't tell you the theater, because I like it. But at the end of the show, and this is important, everybody in the show was black. The writer was black, the director was black, the actors were black. It was awful. And all the white people got up at the end and said, oh my God. And I was sitting down, looking around. I don't ever see this Whitney Houston meme where she's like looking around. I said, what the fuck was y'all watching? This was clearly an awful production. In fairness, it was in previews, but nothing was going to save the show. Nothing. It was terrible. And so I want y'all to be good audience members, right? Call out the BS. You know, like, that's not good. It doesn't matter who's in it if it's not good, right? We do a lot of good work here in Philadelphia. But yeah, we do a lot of co-productions with a lot of theater companies, and that's all. If they say to us, hey, well, we want to do this show with Theater in the Action, we're going to say, how can we give people free tickets? Because they want something too, and that's okay. They want our email list. They want our audience members, right? Things like that. But you got to treat them right. So yeah, I think that was it from this group.
Yeah, unfortunately because of time, we're gonna have to wrap it there.
Yeah.
Let's thank everybody. Walter Shields, thank you so much for being with us today. Hope everything, the call to taking on the stage. I speak for all of us. I'd love to see more theater here. And I know that there was at one point a youth theater group that met here and used this space. And so, thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you all. I really wish the best for you. If you see me outside, I really don't like people all that much. But if you say we were here together, right, we will hug and we will commiserate and have a conversation. And I'm thankful that this is something you do every week, right? And I'm glad you support this organization. I'm glad you support the society. And I'm going to support it. I can't wait to be involved. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now let's move into, or actually let's start with Sylvia, the Ending Racism Task Force Reflection. And then we'll have committee and community announcements, and then we will have Trusselina back up to close us out. Oh, and Walter, I forgot to ask you, we always ask our guest speakers if there's a specific organization that when we pass the hat around we're going to support. I imagine yes. So you know the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shields. I hope you come back. I'd love to have you come back. So, good morning, everybody. My name is Sylvia Metzler. I co-chair a committee here with Eric Young, called the Ending Racism Task Force. Two things we do. One is we have a monthly meeting, and another is we provide a reflection on racism every Sunday morning. So let me say a little bit about the meeting first. This coming Saturday, we'll have a monthly meeting right here in the upstairs rooms from 1 to 4. And we're going to be talking about reparations, for one thing. Eric and I went to a meeting last week, about 20 churches, synagogues, and mosques in the Philadelphia area are looking at being involved with the issue of reparations for slavery. This is a big controversial issue. As you probably have heard, there are some churches already that are involved with reparations, like Green Street Friends in Germantown. Educational institutions, universities, some small towns, some cities. I would like to see Philadelphia Ethical Society look at the issue. I've been talking with Susan Brotherton about having some speakers here in the fall. So that's one thing we're going to be talking about Saturday at our meeting. Also about what's happening at 6th and Market with the President's House. There's been back and forth in the courts. The latest, as of Thursday, was the Third Circuit said that our current administration in Washington may present history as they see it, not as it is in fact and in truth, which is outrageous and evil. So we're going to be talking about what we can do about that. And we're also going to be talking about Frederick Douglass and his famous speech, what is to the slave is the 4th of July. And there was just a recent op-ed piece in the Inquirer called "What to the Oppressed is the Semi-Quincentennial," So we have a lot of things to talk about. We hope you'll come and join us. That's again this Saturday, 1 to 4. We also have a potluck, so bring something fun to eat. In terms of our reflection, I first want to do a little pop quiz. How many of you know who your 2 senators are? How many of you know who your representative is in Washington? Weren't quite as many hands. How about the governor? Your state senator? Your state rep? I want to challenge you. If you care about anti-racism work, if you care about democracy, you've got to know who your elected officials are, and you need to contact them. And when things are done that are outrageous, whether it's what ICE is doing to black and brown people from around the world, what the administration in Washington is doing with erasing history in books, in national park exhibits, one big exhibit right here in Philly. You've got to be calling, lobbying, visiting, complaining to them. I want to give you a phone number. Sometimes you say, well, it's hard to figure out. There's one phone number that you can call that will get you in touch with anybody you need to talk to in Washington, your senators, your rep. 202-224-3121. Write it down. 202-224-3121. And now, I want to read something in closing that I heard on WURD radio, Black Talk Radio, by Solomon Jones, who is a columnist for the Inquirer and the Tribune and a talk show host. And this is called America is Mine. People ask why I talk about politics, because they say that America isn't mine. But America is mine as much as it is anybody else's. In fact, I have a bigger claim than most. I come from the people who stuck their hands into the red clay of Georgia and brought forth a gold mine that was cotton. I come from the people who tilled the soil in North Carolina and made a mint from a leaf called tobacco. I come from the people who founded Tuskegee less than 2 decades after slavery. My ancestors worked for little more than stripes on their backs and pain in their eyes. So yes, America is mine. I come from the people who helped design Washington, D.C. and built it without getting paid. I come from the people who invented Southern delicacies from the scraps of the slaveholders' table. I come from the people who made Negro spirituals of escape songs and made rhythm to go with our blues and made jazz from our mastery of sound and never forgot our drums. And American pop culture is based in our music. So yes, America is mine. I come from the people who made air conditioning you turn up too high, from the people who designed the traffic lights you speed through. I come from the immortal cells of Henrietta Lacks, from the wrong side of the tracks, from the whip scars on our backs. So yes, America is mine. And every dollar I make is for the ones who never made a penny. Every breath I take is for the ones whose breath was cut short. Every ladder I climb is for the ones who had the rug pulled out from under them. And when I walk into the voting booth with my black head held high and cast my black vote in my black interest, it will be for Emmett Till and Trayvon Martin, Rekia Boyd and Sandra Bland, for Martin King and for Malcolm X, and for everyone else who lost their lives in the struggle. Because I come from the people who built this country, and yes, America is mine. Solomon Jones, 4/15/24. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, committee announcements, other committee announcements. Do we have other committee announcements? And if not, I'll do some broader announcements of things that are coming up. You can find these both in the program and the newsletter. I encourage you to grab one from the back. And if you're not signed up for our weekly bulletin, if you go to phillyethics.org, phillyethics.org. Just at the top of the page, you put your email address in there, and you get a weekly email from us. We're doing our first classical music open mic on Monday here at 7 p.m. There's like 15 musicians signed up to play. It's a free concert, so if you like music, you want to come here, cellists, guitarists, pianists. It's going to be very interesting. I know a lot of different people who live nearby who don't get to, they're not professional musicians, but maybe they trained as professional musicians. I think that will be really fun. It's going to be Monday the 22nd. There's also a friend of mine is starting a meditation club here, or trying to, seeing if there's interest. That's totally, he calls it a non-denominational secular meditation group, where it's like, you can practice anything you want. It's very aligned with that culture DNA. It's sort of like, come and do whatever type of meditation you're doing. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3, and the whole, you sit for an hour if you want. That will be, it's called a Sit Club. That's going to be 12 p.m. on the 27th. And there's, again, I encourage people, I was just out there yesterday, and it's just such a gem of a place. Camp Linden, the Angel Barbecue and Picnic, and the 100th anniversary. It's 50 acres, Chester County. We're going to be out there the 11th and the 12th. You can RSVP by scanning the QR code on this poster that's at the back of the room. Okay, so then, if there's not any other urgent announcements. Oh, Diego, yes, and Joe.
Really fast. Happy first day of summer, everyone. Yeah.
Oh, and Joe, yes, today at 3, right?
Yeah, I have Philly Soda meets here the first and third week of each month, and we have a meeting at 3 o'clock today. And we'll be finishing the book on basically how to apply Stoic philosophy in your daily life. So come on out for the
Thank you, Joe. And Stella. One other thing I forgot to mention, several of us went out to see the biopic about Byron Rustin a few days ago, and we're doing a reading club with Paul Prescott, local labor organizer, on a new collection of his writings. So you can sign up at the QR code with that link. Okay, let's give a round of applause for, Pablo. Oh, yes, Pablo. We need to do our teaser.
You want to do it?
Let's do it. Let's do it, Pablo. We're not backing down now. Okay, come up here, Pablo. Pablo's a new member of the Ethical Society. Give a round of applause for Pablo. If you haven't experienced what you're about to experience, I highly recommend it. Sign up for the Empathy Games, and you'll find out what that is in just 1 second.
Hey everyone, a lot of you guys are probably really excited to wrap this up. You've been sort of sitting here for a while, and that's fine. You got some things you're thinking ahead. Check in with that for a second. So whatever's distracting you, whatever's distracting you, pulling you away, taking you out of the room right now, go ahead and be with that for just a moment. Be breath with it, or if you're thinking about other things. And if you can, now some of you are, a lot of you are facing front, if you can, take that and set that aside for a second, look around you, see the people around you, see if you can notice anything that stands out about someone who's nearby. Especially if you notice somebody you haven't paid a lot of attention to, just something that calls your attention. Okay, notice what that is. Okay, check back with yourself. How you feel. Just inside your mind, what was that thing you were thinking about before? And does anything about what you just noticed about another person resonate with what you're thinking about it? Okay, we're going to do this one more time, a little bit more intentionally. So do the same thing when you check in with yourself again. This time, breathe into it. And if you can't, shake out your hands, roll out your shoulders a little bit. There you go. Right. Feel that urgency. Shake it off a little bit. One more time. See if you notice something about somebody around you. And I'm going to notice I see 2 people there. They look like they've been friends for a very long time. They're reaching out and connecting. I love the depth of that connection. I love that. See what you notice about somebody. And check in again with yourself. See what was it about that resonated with you? Did it give you a thought? Did you give you a feeling? Was there some memory? That thing that you noticed about getting ready to take a coffee break, I think. So if you have the opportunity to get to the coffee break, feel free to take the opportunity to go connect with that person. Say, you know, when I saw you, this is the thing I noticed about you, and this was what was going on in me. See if that does anything for you today. Right. So on July 1st, we're planning to do a thing called the Empathy Games. I am starting to develop a process. Some of it I've worked on for a little bit, but taking improv-inspired exercises and using them to develop actual empathy and connection skills. That are real skills that we develop, and they will expand your ability to have real connections and real relationships in your life.
What's the tagline?
I call it the Empathy Games, and the tagline is the final victory is friendship. That's a very American thing. July 1st is going to be 7 o'clock. It's here. It's here upstairs. So, yeah. I'd love to see as many of you who want to come out.
Thank you, Pablo. July 1st, 7 p.m. Empathy Games. Final victory is friendship. Okay, let's welcome back up Trusselina, Michaela, and Hayden to close us out with a song, and then we'll pass around the hat for Theater and the X. Sunday, we have a platform that's going to be really interesting called The Ethics of Memory on Black History in Philadelphia. And we're going to have several folks back for that. Amy Cohen wrote a book about the topic that Eric is holding up right now. And Nigel Johnson, who does history tours here in Philadelphia, is going to be here to speak as well. And Aisha Richardson will be back to join us as part of that conversation. So see you next Sunday at 11. Please do what Pablo said. Find a person you don't know yet. Say hello, make a new friend, and enjoy coffee hours and snacks at the back of the room.